Hi everybody, my name is Mark Carosella. I'm a sales engineer here at Cyware. And at Cyware, what we sell is cyber fusion centers. And essentially what a cyber fusion center is boils down into two different categories. So we have a SOAR component as well as a threat intelligence component. The idea being that when you combine threat intelligence capabilities with the detailed automation and flexibility that SOAR gives you, we can essentially combine all the different data points, integrate all of your different security tools so that we can have that contextual understanding during our incident and threat intelligence investigations, right? So Cyber Fusion does break down into 4 separate modules, but today I'm going to be focusing on just one of those modules, and that is over on the threat intelligence side. So one of Cyware's modules is the Cyware Intel Exchange, which is our threat intelligence platform designed to help you aggregate all of your technical and tactical threat intelligence. It will help you enrich and analyze all of that threat intelligence, report on it, operationalize that threat intel, and ultimately disseminate it if you so choose. So coming into our demo environment here, this is the user interface for the Cyware Intel Exchange, right? And like I said, what Cyware differentiates in, especially in the threat intelligence space, is what we're doing to allow you to aggregate all of your threat intelligence here to this single platform. Some very unique things that we're doing from a processing perspective that I'm going to get into in the UI as well. What does it look like to operationalize that intel and disseminate it? So that's typically how I like to walk through my demos, right? What does it look like to do all of these things in practice? So the beginning of that story really is, how can we get all of our threat intelligence into the platform, right? A tip is not a tip unless you can get all of your intel into the platform, right? Whether it's structured, whether it's unstructured, whether it's in sticks taxi format or a JSON object, or it's parsed out of free text. It doesn't matter. We will have a way to get it into the platform. And if you look in the user interface here, under our integrations management page, we can see the multiple different feed source types over on the left that we're capable of ingesting from. So these can be anything from sticks taxi feeds to premium or community APIs, right? Information sharing as well. This is essentially just an entirely separate section that shows all of the different ISACs that we easily integrate with. Many of the ISACs today are leveraging Cyware technology to either analyze or distribute their threat intelligence information. So it's very easy for us to simply plug into that network and pull that information into our threat intel platform. We can, of course, bring in feeds from RSS, right? We can hook into your email inboxes and parse out all of those email messages for threat intelligence content and automatically add it to our database, right? We have web scraper capabilities. You can push in data over OpenAPI. All of that to say, again, no matter where the data is, what format it's sitting in, we'll be able to pull that into the platform one way or another. And it's very easy to do so, right? We'll see, again, in the UI at the top right, this add stick source button. This would be the same for API, same for RSS or your ISAC feeds. We simply press this button. We provide a few parameters. Once we provide those parameters, we press add source. And just like that, we're ingesting that data into the Cyware platform. So from an ingestion perspective, we have many different options, right? But one of the biggest differentiators in terms of what Cyware is doing is how we're handling the data once it actually comes in, right? What are we doing that's unique from a processing perspective? So I'll start by saying that when we ingest any piece of intelligence, whether it comes from one of those sticks taxi feeds that we set up, whether it comes from an API feed, whether it comes from an ISAC, RSS, email, if it was pushed in over OpenAPI, no matter where it is or what format it's sitting in, we will take that data and we are automatically converting it into sticks format for you. So no custom coding needed. There's no custom configurations required. We will do that all for you on the back end. And in addition to that, that's also how our underlying database is completely set up, right? So all of that data, all of that intelligence, and all of the relationships between that intelligence are all managed using sticks parameters. And kind of bouncing off that idea as well, another unique thing that we're doing from that perspective is we are deduplicating all of that information automatically, right? So even if the data is coming in, let's say the same IP address is coming in from 5 different data points, we'll take that IP address, we'll take all of the information from all those different data points and aggregate it into one single sticks object for you. So this, again, is just a decision that your analysts don't have to make anymore. Which data point to select, which one we want to pull from, it'll all be available under one sticks object, right, under one roof. All of that said, we've talked a little bit about integrations management, right, getting the data in. We've talked a little bit about what we're doing from a processing perspective. So now I'd like to get into how we can help you enrich and analyze all of that threat intelligence information, right? So the beginning of that story really starts in our threat data page. Here in threat data, this is where we'll be able to actually view and search all of that indicator and sticks domain objects information, right? So we have a couple different ways by which we can search through all of this intel. First off, we have a quick filter option, which the UI is set on right now. And in quick filters, you can see to the left all of the different fields by which we can filter this information by. Right, so everything from the object type to the type of the IOC, where is it coming from, what is the score, what TLP is it, right? All of those high-level fields we make very easy to search for without much knowledge of having to write a query or anything like that. So, as an example, let's go ahead and say I am looking for an indicator, right? And then I can easily say, but only show me the IPv4 addresses. And in addition to that, only show me the indicators with a confidence score of at least 75 or higher. And just like that, all of our threat intelligence information can be boiled down to just that subset of intel. And this can all be very easily changed as well. Again, maybe now I'm looking for hashes that fit those parameters. I can take off IP addresses and just jump into SHA-256 hashes as an example, and all of that information that I'm looking for boils right up to the top very quickly. Now that said, we do also have a query language as well, which we call CQL. This stands for Cyware Query Language. So if you need to get more granular and if you need to write a more in-depth search for specific kinds of information, we always have our query language available to you as well. These searches can be saved and you can come back to these later as well. So this is very simple to use. Even with the query language, we do help you by autofilling these parameters and these conditions. So right here is my query from my quick filter that I just wrote. It automatically filled because that's where the data was at this point in time, right? Indicators that are SHA-256 hashes with a score greater than 75. So let's go ahead and just say, and also surface everything with a specific tag. Let's do move it transfer as an example, right? So here I can see all of these SHA-256 hashes that are malicious and have the tag move it transfer. Again, I can always save this search if I need to come back to it later. So all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into an indicator's threat data page to see what kind of information we can surface and what kind of actions we can take during our investigations of these indicators or threat actors or malware or whatever you're searching on. So I will jump into a SHA-256 hash here. And immediately what I'm going to be greeted with is the threat data's overview tab for the SHA-256 hash, right? So here I can find high-level information really that you'll see in all the other tabs, right? So you'll see a basic details widget to a basic details tab. You'll see an enrichment widget to an enrichment tab, right? Again, this is all just briefly summarizing everything that you're going to see in all of the other tabs. Now, to the right, you'll see the ability to quickly add, remove, or create any tagging. As we know, tagging is an excellent way in threat intelligence to index this information, come back to it later, and very quickly understands why this piece of intelligence is relevant. And underneath the tags menu, we can also see a quick actions menu, right? So here I can take any number of, as the name of the menu suggests, quick actions, right? So I can mark this as a false positive. I can add this to my watch lists, deprecate it, mark it for review, add notes, tasks, run automation rules, right? There's no shortage of actions that I can't take directly here from the quick actions tab. Now, all of that being said, I'm not going to go through every little piece of information for each and every one of these individual tabs, but I just want to highlight kind of the important pieces and what really differentiates Cyware across all of these different sections. So jumping into basic details, what I really want to show off here is our automated confidence scoring engine. Right, so anytime we ingest an indicator or a sticks object, we will automatically apply a level, a score, if you will, of maliciousness toward that indicator, right? And we do this using a number of different variables. And if we click into key evidence for this specific hash, as we can see, it's labeled 100 out of 100, so absolutely malicious is what Cyware is expressing here. If we jump into key evidence, we can actually see all the different variables that played into this calculation, right? So directly from this screen, we can see that the reason we call this malicious is because of the relationships that it has between a number of different sticks objects that we have here in the system, such as threat actors, right? It's related to different pieces of malware. It's related to attacker infrastructure. It's related to an active campaign that we're tracking, right? Immediately under that, we can also see that enrichment engines played a piece in why this was called malicious as well. Right, so we can see here that Alien Vault called it malicious. Recorded Future said it was malicious. Virus Total said that it was malicious, right? And lastly, in addition to all of that, if we didn't need, if we needed more evidence as to why this is malicious, we can come down here and we can see what each individual source actually had to say about this particular SHA-256 hash, right? So Alien Vault said that it was a 70 out of 100. The Cyware Fusion and Threat Response platform labeled this 100 out of 100. So we take all of these different variables into account when we're calculating this automatic scoring engine for you. And the second thing that I want to point out in our basic details tab, again, just kind of speaks to the way that we deduplicate everything that's brought into the platform, right? So in a lot of threat intel platforms, you'll see the same indicator that exists across multiple different data points because it came from different sources. Well, here at the very bottom, you can see that even though this indicator came from multiple sources, again, we are just taking it, we're converting it into a sticks object and bringing all of these data points into that one object, right? So in this example, we can actually see each individual poll from, for example, Alien Vault or from CFTR, right? On a minute-by-minute basis as new information is pulled for it, right? So this just kind of expresses what it looks like to actually take all those different data points and aggregate it into this single object. Alrighty, so the next thing that I want to discuss is how we can leverage our various enrichment engines to add additional contextual information to all of our threat intelligence, right? So if we come into the enrichment tab under this indicator of compromise, right, this SHA-256 hash that to this point we already know is malicious, we can see over here to the left all of the different enrichment engines that we already have configured in the platform, right? So when I say enrichment engines, think about like your virus totals, all right? Your recorded future, your Alien Vault. These can be paid engines or they can be community versions as well. But once we go ahead and configure those, we can actually just come into that specific engine. We can press the enrich button. And then once we do that, that enrichment engine will add all of its information into the threat data object. And the automated scoring engine that I just showed you will also be adjusted automatically for you as well based on the new results that we have from that enrichment engine, right? So in this case, right, I came into the page, I came into my virus total enrichment and I said, virus total, please enrich the SHA-256 hash for me. I need some more information on it. I want to know whether it's malicious or not. And virus total said, yes, it absolutely is malicious. And that's one workflow that we can take. But we don't always have to come in and, ad hoc press the enrich button on each individual piece of intelligence that we want to enrich. That's actually probably not the preferred method at all, right? We want this information enriched automatically as it's ingested as much as possible. And we do give you that option as well. We have under our enrichment management section an entire module based on building workflows to enrich this information as it's ingested based on conditions that we can apply. All right, so think about the ability to say, if I ingest a SHA-256 hash from Alien Vault, I want you to use VirusTotal to enrich it automatically every single time it comes in, but only if conditions X, Y, and Z are true, right? So it's an entire workflow around building when and where an enrichment is actually used and leveraged, right? So we can do that manually or we can do it automatically, but once that information comes into the system, we now want to use some of the analysis tools that our threat intel platform provides in order to investigate this piece of intelligence, right? And we have many different analysis tools available to us. We have a threat investigations canvas that allows us to go and visualize those relationships. We have a sandbox where we can throw file hashes and see if they're malicious, right? An analyst workbench. So many different tools at our disposal here, but I am going to focus on one in particular that's really going to help us visualize and understand the relationships that exist between this piece of intelligence and all of the other intelligence that we have in the system. Alrighty, so here in our relationships tab, what we can see is a visual representation of all the different intelligence objects that our malicious SHA-256 hash has in the system. Right, so we can see that this particular SHA-256 hash is related to a number of different STIX report objects that we're tracking, right? We can see that it's related to the account manipulation attack pattern. We can see that it's related to a vulnerability. And I think most importantly here, if I'm an analyst, and what I would really be curious about is it's also related to an active campaign that we're tracking, right? So if I were to double click on this Move It campaign node, I would initially be greeted with some high-level information about the campaign itself, right? So what TLP access restriction has been applied to this particular campaign? What has it been tagged with? Who reported it? When was it reported, etc., right? But if I'm trying to really understand what's going on here with this particular hash and the campaign that it's related to, what I'm going to want to do is dig a little bit deeper into it, which we can very easily do directly from this interface. All we have to do is press the Open in Threat Data page, and this will allow us to immediately pivot to the threat data object for this particular campaign, right? So again, just like with the SHA-256 hash, right? You're going to be greeted initially with this overview screen that's going to tell you some high-level information regarding this campaign. But if you really want the nitty-gritty details, right, we're going to come into basic details to see if we have written up anything about this campaign, right? What do we know about it so far? What other information do we have? And here we can see that we do have a pretty nice write-up for exactly what is happening in this campaign, how we're being targeted, what is being used, etc. And then if I come over to our relationships tab, once again, I can now see all of the different threat intel objects that are related to this particular campaign, right? So what is being used to target my organization in this campaign? It looks like we have a number of different SHA-256 hashes, right? So we can now take this and go proactively block those if we haven't already, or we can go do some threat hunting in our log data to see if any of these hashes have been spotted in our environment, right? So many different actions that we can take with this information already. But if we want to take this one step further and really build a granular, detailed investigation using this information, we actually have an analysis tool which we call Threat Investigations, and we can get to it from our main menu, but we can also get to it directly from the Threat Data Object page here by just pressing View in Threat Investigations. Now, once I do that, we'll see in kind of an open canvas style, all of that relationship data that we just saw in the threat data page. But the difference with this module and what we can do to take this one step further is if we right click on any of these different items, all of those quick actions that you saw in that quick actions menu, you can take directly on any of these nodes on this canvas straight from the canvas, right? So I can click on a SHA-256 and directly from here I can change the TLP, I can add tagging information, I can run automation rules, right, on this SHA-256, I can run enrichments on it, like, you know, maybe virus total, for example. And as we can see, what just happened was virus total enriched that hash that I picked and brought some more information in, right? So many different actions that we can take directly from this canvas to expand the scope of our investigation. But if I'm an analyst, right, and I'm looking at this Move It campaign, we can see here that it's been related, or it's been more accurately attributed to TA505, right, which is a threat actor. So my next question is, what else is this threat actor who's targeting my organization? What could they use to further exploit my organization? What else have they been seen using? What tools are they using? What malware are they using? Different things like that. So I can right click on this threat actor, and if I press Analyze Relations using CTIX, I can again expand the scope of my understanding of threat actor 505 in order to see what other tools, techniques, and procedures that they're using to target us. So once I do that, I can now see, okay, I have my campaign information, which has been attributed to this particular threat actor, which we now know is using tools like Mimikatz and Bloodhound and AdFind to target me. I know which malware they're using. I know which attack patterns they're leveraging against us. So this is, again, one of those tools that's going to allow us to go beyond just that surface level, right? Beyond just the hash, because blocking hashes, that's all well and good. We need to do that. But hashes, as we all know, change day by day, right? So a hash that we block today might not be a helpful block tomorrow because the same threat actor might just change one character in that file and all of a sudden it's a different hash, right? So what we really want to block is we want to look at the campaigns they're running, the tools they're using, the malwares they're using, and the TTPs they're using, so we can be more proactive in blocking the things that are harder to change, right? So this is, again, a great tool for understanding kind of the full scope of a threat intel investigation. My last note here is that we do also support diamond threat modeling, as you can see on the UI right here. So I can just drag a diamond model into this investigation as well. We can put TA505 under the adversary node, drop attack patterns or tools or what may have you into our capabilities. So just another kind of method for building this out and making it look and feel as you need to. The last thing that I'll say actually here as well is this isn't just for a visual representation. Yes, it's great that we can visualize this data and we can export it as a PNG and send it around, but every new piece of information that I add, or for example, at the beginning of this video, right, we ran the virus total enrichment and 2 new hashes were added from virus total because I ran that enrichment, right? Or maybe I create a new relationship that didn't exist before, right, which I can do right here. I can specify the relationship type. This is, again, all based on sticks. Whatever data I'm changing or adding, I can actually save it and write it directly back into my database, right? So this isn't just simply for visualizing. This can quite literally change the data in the underlying database as well. So that is definitely one of our more popular tools for analysis, one that's very widely used. The next tool for analysis that I also like to discuss that's very popular is our Attack Navigator tool. So as we saw just now, we can bring in sticks attack pattern objects, and essentially the Attack Navigator tool functions such that any time a piece of intelligence is related to one of those sticks attack pattern objects, whether we do it manually or it happens automatically from the source that's giving us that information, we can actually track that intel related to our TTPs, right? So let's say active scanning, for example, under the reconnaissance tactic. If I press into active scanning, we can see immediately here that we have 98 indicators related to active scanning, and we have 18 different threat actors that are leveraging active scanning, right? If I click on any of these, I can actually see all of those listed out in either a list view like I'm showing right now, or in a map view as well. So many different ways that we can actually view the relationships between our intelligence and our various attack patterns that we're tracking as well. I can add different tasks to TTPs. So maybe we have specific analysts that are tasked with tracking specific TTPs against my sector, my organization, right? We can go ahead and assign them tasks here. We can leave notes here as well. Again, all of that to say no shortage of kind of what we can't do to track the intelligence as it relates specifically to TTPs. The idea here being that intel should really be what's driving the decisions that we make, right? At an architectural and even like an engineering level, right? Rather than blocking implementing controls at random, we can use this intelligence to say, hey, here are the tactics and techniques that are targeting us. So let's make sure that we're implementing controls that are actually going to be stopping those TTPs that are targeting my sector or my organization. So all of that said, we've discussed what it looks like to get data into the platform, right? What we're doing from a processing perspective, how can we enrich that data? We've discussed a number of different analysis tools that we can use to take our investigations one step further beyond just what's being provided to us by the feed provider or by an enrichment tool. So the next thing that I want to talk about, and this is one of the things that really differentiates Cyware, is how we can operationalize this threat intelligence, right? So what can we do to take this intelligence and actually do something with it automatically so that our analysts don't have to go right one by one and implement blocks or use the intel, right? In our main menu, where I want to take us next in order to cover that is our automation rules engine. So here in our automation rules engine, and I'm just going to walk us through what it looks like to create a rule and how this functions and what it might be able to do, right? I'm just going to go ahead and label this demo rule as an example. I'm going to expand this all the way to the end so that we can see the full kind of life cycle of a rule here. But essentially what we're doing is we are taking automated actions, right, on any intelligence of our choosing based on any conditions that we'd like to specify. So let's take that from the very beginning and kind of go left to right on this rule. So here under source and collection, we're essentially saying if the data comes from this specific source, that's the data I want to take action on. So let's say, as an example, if the data comes from Alien Vault, that is kind of what I'm keying in on here. Next, I can apply conditions, right, in addition to the source information. So how about we say not only if it's coming from Alien Vault, but also if it is an indicator that has an automatically generated confidence score. Again, this is where that confidence scoring engine really comes into handy, allowing your analysts to be more hands-off and kind of making these decisions for you. If that automated confidence scoring engine says that the score is greater than or equal to 75. And you know what, let's just go ahead and we'll even add another condition just for the sake of seeing what that looks like. We'll say, and also only if it is, only if it's an IP. And we'll say all IPs, right? So breaking this down kind of one at a time, what we have keyed in on here is malicious IPs from Alien Vault. If we ingest them, I want you to take some automated action. For automated action, I like to kind of put it in two categories, right? So we have the category that allows us to automatically manage the life cycle of our threat intelligence directly here in CTIX, right? So think of that like updating a tag, right? Or marking this for manual review if it meets these conditions, or doing something like sending an email, or changing some kind of value, right? So like I said, managing the intel itself within CTIX. But that other container, and this is something that really differentiates us in the space, is that we have over 370 integrations that you can actually integrate your intelligence with today. So imagine the ability to say, malicious IPs from Alien Vault, I want you to automatically send those to maybe a Zscaler deny list, as an example, right? So update Zscaler deny list URL, right? Just send those off. In this case, maybe I trust Alien Vaults. I trust that what they're telling me, what they're giving me is a malicious IP. I don't need to look at it, send those off, right? Or send those malicious indicators to a Splunk lookup table, right? Or integrate with a firewall to implement those blocks automatically, right? So any of our 370 integrations can be leveraged directly here in this automation rules engine. Again, we can get very complex with the conditions that we're applying, and we can choose to only do it from specific sources. Our ability to operationalize this intel is definitely key to what we can enable with the product here. So now we've discussed bringing intelligence in, enriching it, analyzing it. We've talked about what it looks like to auto action on this intelligence. So next, what does it look like to actually report on it, right? We're gonna need the ability to occasionally write reports and actually deliver those to leadership, or to send them externally, whoever might need them, right? So we do have a reporting mechanism built directly into the platform. We call it our threat bulletins. And here in threat bulletins, I'll just jump into an example report that we have in our demo. This is a report on the move it transfer critical vulnerability. So scrolling through this, we can see the ability to add headers, footers, different fonts, right? We can change the color of our text. We can add pictures, tables, whatever we might need to make this report look and feel exactly as we want to. But then what we can also do with this report is we can reference items that exist directly within CTIX. So over here to the left, we can see the ability to add object. And this is where we can actually write a CQL query to bring in information from the database. So imagine here we have a move it transfer vulnerability. We were just looking at a move it hash, right? A SHA-256 hash. So let's say, where object type equals indicator, and where IOC type equals, let's say, SHA-256. And let's go right back to tags that equal move it transfer. So here are all of my IOCs that might be relevant to this particular report I'm writing. So maybe I want to go ahead and add them to the report. All right, so here I'll just go ahead and I'll grab 5 of them for the sake of an example. We'll press continue. And at the very bottom, we can see a list of objects that I've added to the report. Here in this case, I'll go ahead and rename it to move it hashes, right? And we can see that information directly from here. We can also add threat investigations as well. So that nice move it campaign analysis visualization that we built, we can add it directly onto the report if we wanted to. And we can also add any MITRE TTPs directly from that TTP interface as well. Now, when it's all said and done, we can go ahead and we can publish this report out. We can maintain, and we're going to go over this here in a little bit as well, but we can actually create and maintain different STIX collections to house our intel, so that we can make it available for external entities to pull. So once I publish these reports, I can actually send this directly off to a STIX collection to be pulled by maybe one of my partners, or anybody who I might allow access into my STIX collections. Lastly, we talked about reporting, and I think just to wrap up the conversation about what we can do here in our Cyware Intel Exchange is we are very well suited as a threat intelligence distribution tool as well. So if we come into our sticks collections menu, we can see the ability to very easily spin up and manage any number of sticks collections that we need to, right? So there's no custom coding, no configurations needed. There's no, no server management or any of those kinds of issues that typically come with managing Stix taxi capabilities. It's built directly into the platform natively. So if I want to come and create a new Stix collection to put intelligence into and make available to external entities, I just give the collection a name. I give the collection a description. And then finally, I can make that collection available for either polling or inboxing, right? So polling would allow external entities to pull from my Stix collections, and inboxing would allow external entities to push into my Stix collections, right? So now I can create that bi-directional communication and intelligence sharing with my partners or anybody that I want to give access to this intel. And in order to spin up those credentials, it's very easy. We just have to come into our integrations management page here. And under subscribers, we can see all of the different subscribers that we currently have configured, but to create a new set of credentials for example, a new partner, at the top right, I can just press add subscriber. I give the subscriber a name. I can specify their organization. And then finally, I just give the contact details and I can specify exactly which collections I want those credentials to have access to. And once I have specified the organization, I have specified the collections that they can access, those credentials will immediately be emailed out and they can now pull the threat intelligence that I've generated here in my Cyware Intel Exchange into their threat intelligence systems and perhaps push intel into your systems as well. So that is the Cyware Threat Intel Exchange overview. I've taken you through the full life cycle today of what it looks like to aggregate your various sources of threat intelligence here into this single pane of glass. What did it look like from a processing perspective? What are we doing that's unique in our underlying database? How can we use this platform to enrich and analyze our threat intelligence? What are we doing from an automation perspective to make it so that your analysts aren't always hands-on keyboard doing the monotonous tasks, right? How can we report on this intel? And finally, how can we push it out to our partners or allow our partners to share back to us? So I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and ask away. Thank you.